So let's just take a moment first, please, to lie on our backs to begin with. So we're just taking a moment here to check in. We're going to check in to what's happening in the inner space of the body. Noticing what's happening in the inner space of our minds. Is there a sense of crowding or lightness in either of these inner spaces? And upon noticing it, just not judging it. And so, as I mention often, it's this very simple foundation of awareness from which we predicate our practice, this constant, steady state checking in with these inner spaces. And then we bring in this physical manifestation of awareness, and that is breath. And so without me cueing your breath, just notice the quality and the texture of your breath. Is the breath slow and smooth naturally, or are you entering the practice today with a little bit of jaggedness in the breath? And then we'll bring in this breath, yes, through the belly, but also through the side body and the back body. We're filling the entire rib cage and belly up in all directions on the inhale. We're releasing with some surrender, with some ease on the exhale. And so above everything else, as we move through tonight's sequence, it's this awareness and it's this breath that I want you to try your best to carry through for the next hour, 10 minutes. Good. And so I'll have you bend your knees, flatten your feet, windshield wiper the knees, and roll to your favorite side. And just allow yourself to lie on your side now for a brief moment. And perhaps from there, just noticing how your body is resting on the ground, on the floor. Can you feel the rib cage spread on the inhale on the ground side of your body? Is there any part of your body that is resisting the ground for no reason? And then slowly, I'm going to have you roll to the other side. And by slowly, I mean allow yourself 60 seconds to make that slow, smooth transition, imbuing that roll to the other side with the same awareness as we cultivated at the beginning of our practice. Noticing where there's tension, resistance, discord. And then once you find that you're on your other side, there's no rush here. Slowly press yourself up to seated. I want to now move into just our active seat, and then we'll begin with the release and stretch aspect of the class. If you have a bolster, you can use a bolster. You can also sit on a block or two blocks next to each other if you have them, a pillow. Or if you're feeling ruggedly independent, you can sit on the floor without a prop. We're just going to work our active seat here real quick. Once you have your props set up, you will sit on the props. I imagine you assume that's what would happen. Good. And allow those ischial tuberosities, the sitting bones, to root into your blocks or whatever prop you're using to sit on. Good. And so we'll imagine the pelvis as a punch bowl. This is our pelvis. And when we're rooting our sitting bones into our props or into the floor, we want to kind of imagine the top rim of our pelvis being as this bowl is. You don't want any water pouring out the front or out the back. And just see how that maybe changes the character of your seat. We've talked about this pelvic floor and transverse abdominis connection. So maybe start to fold that layer in. Inhale, expand the ribs out. Exhale, start to begin to lift the pelvic floor. Wrap transverse abdominis. Feel that light sensation of connection in the ribs. Breathe in, 360. Exhale gently. And now start to draw the shoulders down the back if you haven't done that yet. This very gentle drawing in of our chin behind the lower body of our sternum. That's the bony part of our sternum. Okay. And from there, we might imagine that we have a line or an invisible cord, a tether attached to the very crown of our head. As a bald guy, you can see the crown of my head. It's that point here. You're going to imagine this aspect, your crown reaching up and out. And so we have this baseline awareness that's non-physical, this constant checking in. We have this rudimentary physical awareness in the breath, right? And now we have this postural awareness of how to carry ourselves in our seat. These are really good foundations to begin. And so we'll be going into some pretty standard stretches, some non-standard positions, but all throughout, just check in with these three aspects that we just worked through. Excellent. Take a couple of deep breaths. Do we all have a cylindrical object? Nancy, do you have one of these? Some sort of ball by any chance? Yeah? Fabulous. Yeah, a tennis ball will suffice. How about you, Mom? How you doing there? You look like you don't have a ball. Charlie and Frankie took the ball. I bet you money my mom's dogs took her ball. Yes. Now, Mom, we're going to do myofascial release with the ball. So if you can't find one, you can massage the same tracks that we're going to be doing. So this is an oldie but a goodie. We're going to do hand and foot care today. I think that's really important, especially gang, right? Terry now, Helene, everybody. We're starting to work with functional movement, the deep squat, right? And we're starting to work our Cossack squats too, right? And I think one thing that is massively important to be able to perform those patterns is ankle mobility, right? That was something that I failed to mention in the last class, but it's 100% true, the ankles, the feet. So let's come on up to standing. We're gonna do our myofascial release of the feet with the tennis ball. I used to do this every single class, every single yoga class. All right, so we're gonna follow now the midline of our right foot. And I'm saying our right foot so that we're all on the same page. So we're not gonna hit the heel, we're not gonna hit the balls of the feet yet, we're just hitting the arch. And so we're gonna roll right down the middle arch. Good passive balance work. Having that same type of active alignment standing as we were sitting is a good idea, especially when we're working on this passive balance. Good. Hand and foot care. Give it a few more passes here. If you're feeling any adhesion or any sticking points, you can spend time on that line. So if the mid arch, this part of your foot feels a little bit more sticky, then spend some time there. If this does, spend some time there. Now we're going to roll to the outside edge of our foot. Here. Okay. And that's a little bit more awkward. You get a little less feedback. Should move back a little bit. And then friends will go inside arch of the foot. So this is from the inside of the heel, right to the big toe knuckle. And I always recommend spending a little bit of time in that small space where the inside arch meets the big toe knuckle. There's usually a bit of an adhesion there or a bit of a sticking point. Good. Now let's go to the heel. We're just going to, technical term, smush the ball with the center of the heel, right in the middle of the heel. And we're just going to do these concentric spirals out to the outer edge of the heel. And if you are looking for some adhesions, right where the heel meets the arch. Sorry, my foot's dirty. Right where the heel meets the arch, you might find 2 or 3 bumps, sticky spots, depending on the foot. Give that a few passes, go where it feels good. Terry's playing a little bit of soccer. This is typical. If you find yourself losing the ball, you are in distinguished company. All right, let's get our heel rooted onto the floor. And now we're going to cross fiber from the big toe knuckle to the outside edge of the foot. And what we're trying to do here, right, is we're trying to spread the bones of the foot. We're trying to spread the metatarsals over the ball. The heel is on the ground. That's our pivot point. Yeah. How much can you relax your foot in this action as well? After you've given it a few more passes here, let's place our first 3 toes on top of the ball while the heel remains grounded on the floor. We're going to squeeze the ball using the musculature of our foot rather than the weight of our body, okay? So we're just squeezing with our toes. We're bringing a little bit of resistance. Just connecting to foot's integrity. And then after a few really good squeezes of the ball, then we can just do a general roll throughout the foot one more time. And then we'll just walk around maybe in a circle and just see how the rolled foot feels versus the unrolled foot. Excellent. And then we'll go to the other foot. So we're rolling through mid-arch now. Left foot, if you were following my directional cues. Got to get that other foot, because if we don't, then we're going to end up doing this. You think you're walking in a straight line, but you'll be walking in a circle. I've seen it happen. Okay, we're rolling mid-arch. My mom just hung up on me.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that. Here are other things you can try.
Thanks, Google. Okay. I thought you had enough myofascial release for the feet, Mom. So without the ball, you're using your thumbs, Mom. So those same lines that we're releasing, you know, you can use your thumbs to release the midline of the foot, just palpating with your thumbs. You don't have the ball, but that's also, you know, you can follow those same tracks. I'll cue for it for you, Mom. Good. Now we've just rolled through the midline of the arch, Mom, if you are palpating. And now we'll go to the outside edge of our left foot, okay? And so I might recommend something like this, Mom, for that outside edge of the foot. You know, it's a little hard from the ground. If you have a chair nearby, you could sit on that. And then we'll go inside arch of foot again. And so this to me is the most rewarding part of rolling the foot, is this inside arch. That's good, Mom. Awesome. Yeah. And so what I'm getting here, that's definitely palpation with the thumbs, Mom, right all along that inside arch. And as I instructed to our classmates, I'm going to spend a little bit of time where that inside arch meets the ball of the foot, the big toe knuckle. And usually that will reap some sort of tender spot. Good. Continue working on cultivating that deep posterior lateral breath, right, through the rib cage in the back. And then we're going to work heel now. So we're just smushing the ball with the center of our heel. You can place your weight down on the ball. And then we're gonna next move into these concentric spirals out in any direction you wish. You can go clockwise or counterclockwise. I would likely take the heel and squeeze it to mobilize it, Mom, with my palm of my thumb and my fingers. Now you can hit right where the heel meets the arch, and there will be some adhesion there for a lot of folks, especially if you list to one side. Okay, we've hit the heel. We're going to place that heel on the floor now. acting as our pivot point. And we're working on that cross fibering from the big toe knuckle to the pinky side. And I'll show you what to do here, Mom. But when we're working with the ball, the heel stays on the ground and we're cross fibering the foot, trying to keep the foot relaxed, allowing the metatarsals to spread over the ball. Now, if you're doing manual release with your hands, then it might be a good idea to keep the foot relaxed, rest your ankle on your knee, Mom, and work to manually, with your hands, spread the bones of your foot. Maybe bring your fingertips in between your toes, Mom, and massage the sides of the toes. Okay. One or two more passes cross fibering, and then we're going to place the first 3 toes on the ball and squeeze. Again, just using the musculature of the foot rather than the weight of the body. And then we'll get a general roll again. Just tying up any loose ends in the foot, if you feel like there are any. And then again, we'll just walk around. Allow the released feet to move. And maybe consider, as you're walking, being focused about that. And as you walk, trying to stride through both balls of your feet evenly, as opposed to rolling through the outside edge of your foot when you walk. So can you plant your big toe knuckle and the rest of your toe knuckles into the ground evenly as you walk? So we're kind of doing this active walking now real quick before we move into hand care. Good. So here we're going to have to find a position on the ground. Maybe the blocks on the floor will be useful for you because it'll get your hips a little bit higher. I know that this kneeling position is not great for folks. This is what I do. You can do this seated in a chair on a table if you wanted. You can do this cross-legged. You can do this bottoms of the feet together. For me, once again, I like to have my weight over the ball a little bit. I'm going to start now with the whole palm. So we're just going to do circles around the outer edge of the palm as much as possible. And what you're looking for is you're looking to find adhesions, right? You're looking to find these spaces in the hand that maybe feel like you're getting a bit more feedback. And when you do find one of those spots, stop and spend a little bit of time there. So for me, it's this outer blade edge of my hand on the pinky side of my hand, where I tend to have just a little bit of tenderness. So I'm just flossing over that spot a little bit more, giving it a little bit more attention. Good. Just 1 or 2 passes more. And then we're going to go to the thumb pad. So we're just going to follow that outer line of the thumb pad with the ball. Okay. And what I like to do is I like to use my free hand to just apply a little bit more load onto my release hand. Good. Great. Okay. So just like we did with the foot, when I had you spread the bones of the foot over the ball. I'm going to have you do the same thing. So we're going to roll the ball right over the knuckles of the hand, right over the metacarpals, right? Rolling. What's going on there? Ah, yes, Nancy, 100%. My goodness, you're muted right now. Unmute yourself. Let me see that. Yeah, so everyone gets the gist here. Just follow through 1 or 2 more times, working to relax the hand and spread the bones of the hand over the ball. Yeah. And again, you can use your free hand to apply load on the ball if that's something that you feel like you want today. Good. And so we're going to work next on tractioning the fingers. And so this one is met with a little bit of confusion sometimes. I'm going to try my best to be specific here. So you have the ball, and then you have your finger. What I would like you to do is with your free hand, you're going to try to stretch your finger over the ball, but also notice, can everyone notice that my finger is still rolling as I'm trying to stretch my finger over the ball? Does that make sense? Yeah? Nod your heads. I know you can't give me a thumbs up right now. Good. So middle finger next, everyone, if you haven't moved on. Yeah? If you have moved on, we're just progressing through the digits here, right? We're going to get the left palm now. If you haven't gone there, let's get the left palm. Just around the outside edge of the palm. The next step in the sequence, if you're feeling pretty independent at this point, is we're going to work that thumb pad. Don't go past that point yet. Good, everyone. Continue to keep the hand relaxed, and now we'll work on spreading the bones of the hand here. Okay, next we're tractioning the fingers. So I start at my, my thumb here, typically. So I'm going right over my thumb knuckle. Again, I'm rolling the ball under my thumb, but I'm also using my free hand to spread it. It's a slow action. And the more you can release your fingers, everybody, the more that you'll feel that kind of nice tractioning, that space being formed in between the bones of the fingers here. Index finger after a couple of passes, maybe 3 passes each digit. It's like if you have a really, really vivid imagination, you're trying to imagine spreading your finger longer, stretching it. I'm going to my middle finger now. Good. Middle finger, nice spread. Good. After a few passes, ring finger. Good. And so we all have wrists here. I know that because you do yoga with me, right? Occasionally, we all get a wrist from doing yoga, from being on our hands, from life. And so it's this kind of material, this myofascial release and mobilizing of the tissue that's going to help us support our practices ultimately. Let's come to standing for this. We're going to get our feet just about hip to shoulder width apart. Good. Now we're doing controlled articular rotations of the wrist. And so what we want here is we want some structure. So we're going to pin our right elbow into our side. We're locking it in, yeah? This is what I lovingly refer to as an acrobats curl position. I'm going to use my free hand, that's my left hand, to support that right arm at my side, keeping a 90 degree. Now I'm going to try to do this only through the wrist. I'm going to try not to internally or externally rotate the bones of my forearm here either. This is what this free arm is for. And I'm just going to work to bring my palm toward me. I don't want to deform my hand. I'm trying to keep my hand as straight as possible. And then I'm going to make big, wide circles. Once again, I'm trying not to deform the palm of my hand. I'm trying to keep this shape in my hand the whole time. Not this, not this, not this, this. And I'm doing big, broad circles. And what we're looking for is we're looking for that outer edge of our end range mobility. It's going to be less than you think because we're taking away our ability to couple through the arm. We're taking away our ability to use any other joints, including the innominate bones of the hand, to aid us in this action. And it's going to feel like some work. Change directions. Good. This feels like muscular work. You will feel this in the belly of the forearm and the top of the forearm. And it's really helpful to imagine your hand is moving through butter or a thick viscous fluid. It's a slow, controlled action. If it wasn't controlled, they'd just be called R's. Come on, that was funny. Controlled, articulate, never mind. Okay, good, shake it off briefly. Good. Mobility work. So this is much easier than the hips, and we'll be doing that in a little bit. It's really fun. Same idea, right? So maybe a good cue is you want to imagine that you have a teacup in the palm of your hand, okay, to start with. Now you're going to bring your palm toward you, only trying to bend at the wrist. We're not trying to bend any of the other bones in our hand, and you're going to realize that's a lot harder than we think. You don't have as much pure flexion as you think. Again, without deforming the hand, I'm going to move back a little bit. We're going to work to move in any direction that feels organic to you to begin with, and then we'll go in the other direction. Make this movement slower than you want to. Don't forget to breathe, right? We're working on cultivating that deep breath through the belly and the back. Try not to rotate the forearm and change directions. Good. Even the action of keeping your legs strong in this mountain pose type engagement is useful because we might want to list to one side even just by doing this controlled articular rotation. Good. I tend to drop this shoulder sometimes. I want to keep my shoulders even. Okay, shake it off. Funny, if the climbing gym I worked at, this is the sequence that I took a lot of climbers through because they had a lot of hand and pulley and all sorts of issues with the hands. Now we're going to bring our hands completely flexed or extended, excuse me. Good, shoulders down the back. And what I want to work on is spreading the fingers as wide as you can. You may know this because I always cue this in our mountain pose. Arms are straight at the elbows, straight, straight, straight. And what I want you to work on is squeezing an opening as wide, but as fast as you can also. Is there a bend in the elbows? Yes, it's work. Shake it off. Woo! Okay, now we're starting to cook a little bit. All right, same idea though. This is a little bit tougher now, right? We want to try to externally rotate the bones of our arms. Our hands are going to come along for the ride. We're going to bring our hands into pure extension, which I call horse. If you were in my horses class, you know that, right? Full spread of the fingers, grab, release. Oh yeah, it's hard work. Mom, you can go slow with that. Just go like this. Okay, fantastic. One more thing before we go into our stretch, it's our ankle cars, and this will conveniently drop us back onto the floor. So take a seat flat on the ground, and I'm just going to rest the ankle. So I'm resting my right ankle on my left leg. Right ankle, right on my left leg. And all I'm going to work to do is, without getting the toes involved, I'm going to work to just do these circles, these foot circles. But I'm very carefully going to try not to spread my toes or change the shape of my foot as I do that. And that's going to leave you with a smaller foot circle than the ego would like to have. Now, another way you can do this that's a bit more active is you can draw that right knee into your right shoulder. And that just gives you a little bit more of a clear look at what's happening in that foot and ankle. So one option, a little less active, a little more passive, is just resting right ankle on the left leg. Other option is right knee in the right shoulder. And change directions. Good. Awesome. Okay. Good. And let's change legs now. Simple. Simple as a dimple here. Left ankle is going to go on right knee. Look at me. I have a hybrid that I just came up with. I'm sitting on the blocks. My free leg is bent, foot flat on the ground. My controlled articular rotation foot is on my right knee. It's my left ankle on my right knee. And now I'm just doing these, I was going to say simple ankle circles, but if you're being really strict about not changing the shape of your foot, not so simple. Especially since I broke this ankle, or I think I did, or severely sprained it from climbing. So it's a constant effort to make sure I still have mobility in this ankle. Change directions if you haven't thought to do so. Whew. Okay, good. So a little less active than the hands there, but it's always good to just check in and find out what your end range is. So I'm going to take you all now through a much beloved series I've kind of carried with me in my back pocket through my whole life. It's the basic stretch series. It's a pretty straightforward sequence, but I'm going to cue us so that we can all get pretty deep in it. So the first thing I would like to do is just a basic straight leg stretch. So this is a seated forward bend. You can have a strap on hand, or a belt. I want to focus on structure here. So we're going to bring the feet forward. If you choose to use the strap, you can place the strap, I would recommend, at the balls of the feet here. This will allow us to really flex the foot, dorsiflex the foot. And then what you would do is you want to walk your hands along the strap so that we have as little slack on the line as possible. We're going with a real active stretch here. So give yourself time to ease into this, but what's really important is that we have structure in the legs. So I'm asking for a little bit of kneecap on leg action, connecting to the quads, connecting to the core, and bringing yourself slowly into your front bend to begin. We're going to try to unravel from the inside out. So what this means is we're going to inhale so deeply through the back of the body and the side of the body. Then as we exhale, we're going to try to go maybe just a quarter inch, 1/16 of an inch further and longer into this position. Energetically reach the heels forward. Draw all of the toes in the direction of your body. You can imagine reaching the tailbone or the sacrum back in the opposite direction of your heels. We're going to try to keep the spine long as possible for this front bend. The chin is tucked, and we want to focus on this sensation of length in the cervical spine. That's the neck. Try to connect your shoulders to your body. We're going to take 3 more deep, steady breaths as we progress in this seated front bend. You can take big toes if you are at that point. Another way you can go deeper is you combine the hands. So it's infinitely scalable. And then once you feel like you've gotten that far, then you can elevate the feet, which will of course just challenge the length a little bit more in the tissues of the legs. So I want to split this up. We're going to go one leg at a time. Yeah. So we can take our non-stretch leg and we're going to place it on the inside of the stretching leg. If that doesn't feel good for your knee, just bring it out to the side. Rooting sit bones, connecting to the core muscles. Let's reach our hands up and try to keep some semblance of structure in the spine and shoulders as we reach toward the right foot. Now you can take the ankle. You can use a strap. You can take the big toe. You can take a bind. What I'd like you to try to focus on, though, again, is keeping that weight 50-50 in both of your sitting bones. Drawing chin to chest, but also we're working on elongating the spine. Breathing in through the ribs, breathing out to connect to the intrinsic core muscles. Breathing in to elongate, breathing out to relax into the stretch a little more. Try to take your deepest breath thus far. Gently roll out of it, and let's just bump the legs real quick, and we're going to go to the other side now. So I gave you an abundance of options, maybe too many. Let's just try both legs straight this time. Rooting sits bones into the ground, really flexing the feet and drawing the toes toward the body. And then we'll take whichever variation is feeling good for this side. It can be strapped again. We want to avoid slack in the line or bends in the elbows if we're using the strap. Take a look at both of your feet while you're in this stretch, just for a moment of awareness. If both your legs are straight, is one foot doing this? Is one foot going further than the other foot? If that is the case, then that means that you're shifting one hip forward and one hip back, right? Can you draw your hips even to each other in this stretch? When you do that, how much you like me might diminish a little bit. Good. Can you go a little deeper here? Can you tuck the chin, but still maintain elongation in the body as you do so? Good. This is great. Deep breath. Feel the shirt tighten on your back as you take an inhale. And then we'll gently release that leg. Let's just circle the feet, wiggle the toes, bounce the knees on the ground. Okay. So we're going to move into butterfly as we're moving through this basic stretch series. Again, rooting sitting bones on the ground. Let's go back to that active seat that we focused on at the beginning of the class, right? We're rooting the sitting bones into the ground. For now, while we're in this neutral, how much can you try at least to get the rim of the pelvis, like that bowl I showed you earlier, totally even round? Get the spine nice and straight. Connect the shoulders, the arms to the body. Find some length in the neck. And some of this structure may break as we do this, but try to maintain that structure as you start to bring your body forward. You're using your hands underneath your feet to draw yourself in. Breathing deeply. Also consider trying to open your knees toward the ground. Some folks may be able to do that and feel like they have some real control over that abduction, that opening of the knees. Some folks may feel like, what are you talking about, Adam? But it's about using the musculature on the outside of the hips to try to open the knees as you're in this committed butterfly position. While you're using the muscular integrity of the outside of the hips, then you can consider using your elbows to helping those knees down a little bit more. Breathe deeply into this. We're directing the breath into the lower back, the belly, and the mid-upper back. Inhale and elongate the spine. Exhale, try to draw yourself just a little bit forward. A bit more passive than seated front bend. And shake it off briefly. You can bring your hands behind you and windshield wiper the knees. So we're looking for next. I'm going to show you in its purest form what a spiral position is. We've been in this position before. My front leg is pretty close to a 90 degree. The sole of my foot is in front of me. So friends, this is basically a half butterfly position. Yeah? What's a little bit tricky for folks is this back leg. This is a pretty deep bend, and this position asks you to put the top of your foot on the ground. That's tough for folks. So might I recommend, if this is very hard for you, give yourself some height. Put yourself, it doesn't matter to me how high you are on a block. Yeah? Or in general, I don't judge, right? It just doesn't matter to me. What I want you to be able to do is just try to comfortably find this position to begin with. And then we can start to move deeper into it in a safe way. Is everyone okay here? Let me check. I've been on the ground for a minute. Everyone looks good. Mom, how are you doing there? I just see your head. Oh. How's your audio? Can you give me a thumbs up if it's working for you? Yeah? Okay, cool, great. All right, so from here now, we're in this base position, even if you are on a block. See if you can get your sitting bones even if they're not connected to something. How do you know that you're doing that? You can make an assessment if you're on the block from your hip bones. So you can palpate toward the hip bones and feel if one hip is higher than the other. Now, if one hip is higher than the other, this is your work now. And this is all I want you to focus on. You can use your hands to give you some support, but you just want to try to get a little more even in your hips. That's your job in this spiral position. And you're going to feel that this is plenty of a hip opener for you right now. If you feel like this is not enough, then obviously you can take the block away and start to work on rooting your sitting bones evenly into the floor. Getting the top of your back foot down onto the floor. This requires ankle mobility. So that's another thing to work on. And then if you're looking for a little more, then you can start to draw your body over your front leg. This is our spiral position. I've got my right knee forward. I just want to be clear here. I'm going to now fall away onto my right hand. So I'm leaning more on my right glute. My right leg is forward. It would be opposite if your left leg was forward. I'm going to take my top arm and I'm going to reach that top hand and walk the fingers along the floor from this spiral position. And this should give me a really nice twist in the thoracic spine. Keep the shoulders connected to the low back. Draw the ribs in as you're in this twist from spiral. I'm going to come up and take a look at the family. You can also direct your gaze underneath your leaning arm. So if you're leaning on your right arm, you want to try to look through that window that your arm is making. I'm going to demonstrate now. Right arm, I'm leaning off to the side and I'm trying to look through under my armpit. And I'm also using my non-leaning arm to walk my fingers and just try to help deepen that twist a little bit. Breathe into the middle upper back for this, as well as the belly. Okay, bring yourself to that neutral spiral position again, and we'll carefully switch sides. If you're new to spiral, don't just jump into the other side, because this is really where the imbalance in the body, if you're a lister or not, will make itself evident. So again, prop assisted. If you're having trouble finding the position unassisted, but you also love high fives from Adam, you are far more likely to get a high five from me if you use a prop than if you weren't to. Because by using a prop, you're going to allow yourself, yes, to find that, yes, Helene, to find that position with greater facility, safer. If you try to force it, your body is not going to respond nicely to that. It's just not, you're not going to get there. So allow yourself that assist. Breathe into those newfound spaces. You're using your breath to claim that new space that you've created. We're rooting both of our sitting bones evenly. We're trying to keep that punch bowl rim of our pelvis as even as possible, as even as our body wants. And then you can start to bring the body forward, as my mother is doing right there. Very nice. And so if you are coming forward in this, I'm cueing for everyone here. So yes, it is forward, but what we really have here is an elongation component. So we're rooting our sitting bones, it's our butt bones into the floor, right? And we're rooting the crown, or we're reaching the crown of the head in this opposing reach. My crown of head is reaching away from my tailbone is reaching away from the crown of my head. And this is resulting in this really beautiful elongation of the spine in this position. Breathing deeply into this position to reclaim that newfound space. We're going to come in for that twist. So my left leg is forward now. I'm going to use my left arm or hand as my leaning arm or hand. Now, just to be clear, my right hand is going to walk on the fingertips underneath my left arm. And I'm going to try to direct my gaze through that window under my arm. And can you try to find that oppositional reach, crown of head and tailbone reaching away from each other from this position? Because we are twisting, so we want to create elongation as we twist. Deep breath in the rib cage, in the middle back. If that feels elusive to you, just rinse, wash, repeat, and you'll start to feel the space open as the muscles around the rib cage start to free up a little bit, and in the back. One more deep breath here, and then we'll bring ourselves out of that twist into our neutral spiral position and very slowly come out of your spiral now. Oh, thank goodness, Adam. Okay, good. We're going to go into wide angle next. There are many different shapes to wide angle. I'm going to preface that way. Your wide angle might look like this, and that is great, okay? Your wide angle might look wider, and that is also great too. What I'm looking for, though, is mountain pose action in the legs, and that just means straight and strong. That gentle draw of the kneecap onto the leg. That flexion, not pointing, but flexion of the feet for now. We're just trying to elongate the tissues on the back of the leg. Can you ground the sitting bones into the floor again? And just see how your body feels here. For our wide angle, our seated wide angle, there are two components. There's the walking forward, and then there's the opening of the legs. The third component is the rolling the hips forward as you start to walk your body forward. We're trying to keep our spine straight in whatever range our body can go in wide angle. So my arms are mountain pose straight. If you can see the screen, you can see my fingers are spread wide, my arms are straight, my shoulders are moving down my back, my legs are straight, my feet are flexed. I'm trying to get my toes pointing up to the ceiling, externally rotating in this direction. So my feet aren't turning down, they're opening out. And the more you can open the legs, externally rotate the legs, flex the feet, and lengthen the spine, eventually, the more space you'll be able to create with that breath. 1 or 2 more breaths before allowing yourself to come upright. We're going to take that right hand. We're going to bring it right up next to our right arm. We're going to bring it right up next to our right ear. Let's use our imagination now and imagine that our body is in between 2 walls. There's one wall in front of us and there's one wall directly behind us. Those walls are not allowing us to go forward. They're not allowing us to fall back. We're going to try to just open the right side of the body as we close the left side of the body. This will result in us reaching our body toward our left leg. We're reaching our body toward the left leg. So this is just a lateral bend here. Breathe into the open side ribs. For me, that's the right side ribs. I'm directing the breath into the ribs. I'm keeping the shoulders connected to my back. I have structure here. I'm even trying to reach my right sitting bone into the floor. And can you, as you come up from your position, notice that your head and your arm aren't actually doing the moving? It's your spine that is. The head and the arm are coming along for the ride here. So there is some focus and concentration here. I've got my left arm up to my left ear now, and I'm going to fall away toward my right leg. And I'm imagining those 2 walls in the front and in the back of me that are preventing me from coming forward or back. If you're really mobile, you can think about rotating your sternum or your ribs up to the ceiling from that position. Even if you can't get deep, it's just that small idea of turning your ribs toward the ceiling just a tiny bit, a 1/16 of an inch. You might notice a little more opening. That might help you draw your shoulder down your back a little bit more. Everyone looks great here. I always can, thumbs up if that's Charlie, Mom. Oh no, it's not. It's Frankie. Release, shake it off, everyone. Fantastic. Okay, so we've gotten a little bit of a twist in. I want to get to our controlled articular rotations now for the hips. Do we have a wall? Yes, Mom, you have a wall right there to your left. Susan, do you have a wall? No wall. Okay, how about that table? Is that stable? I just need you to have somewhere where you could put your hip up against from all fours. I'll show you like this. You're not putting your weight into it. It's just something that you could put your hip on right next to. It could be a chair even, Susan. It's gonna be like a teacher for you. You'll see when I'm doing it. So we're going to do a controlled articular rotation of the hip. And so what I'm doing here is I have a wall, and that's why I asked that. I'm putting my left hip and my left shoulder against the wall. If you don't have a wall, you can always improvise by putting your left hip against a chair. The purpose of the wall or the chair is to tell you how much you are coupling your body. Here's the movement. I'm going to bring my hands forward past my shoulders a little bit. I'm going to then take my right leg off the ground, keep my left hip on the wall or on my chair. I'm going to bring the knee up toward my chest. I'm going to open my leg out. I'm going to try to keep a 90 degree, and I'm only going to go as far as my body wants to go. Then I'm going to reach my heel up behind me toward the ceiling, and then I'm going to bring the knee back toward the floor. Now I'm going to be cueing everyone through this. We're going to do this together. Keeping my hip on the wall or next to my chair. I'm going to try to keep my hip on the wall or chair, and then I'm going to bring the foot back. Watch my leg. It's at a 90 degree or close to. I'm trying to keep that shape. And then I'm opening the knee out, bringing the knee up to my chest and back down. Basically, we're doing circles with our femur. Okay? You're just doing, forget about your lower leg, just think about your femur bone. And all you're trying to do is make the biggest, widest circles with your femur bone without taking your hip off the wall or away from your chair, Susan, that's it. Additionally, what we're trying to avoid here is a sensation of pinching, a sensation of pain or discomfort. It is challenging, but we don't want pinching. I'll continue to demo here. I'm opening my knee out as much as my body wants to allow painlessly, keeping a 90 degree. I'm bringing my knee back behind me, and then I'm returning my knee to my all fours neutral. I'm changing direction. I'm reaching my heel up toward the ceiling. Then I'm opening my knee out. Wide circle, bringing my knee up toward my chest and back down toward the ground. One more time. Hip is on the wall, shoulder is on the wall, or just hip. I'm bringing my knee up to my chest. Pausing. I'm opening my knee out as wide as I can, and then pausing. Then I'm internally rotating the leg, and I'm reaching my heel toward the ceiling, and pausing there, and then I'm returning to my all fours. Reverse it. 90 degree in the leg is maintained as much as possible. Reach the heel up toward the ceiling. Open the knee out wide, keeping 90 degree, and bring the knee to the chest and back. Turn around and switch sides, everyone. For me, my right hip is on. So it can be a little confusing, but really all you're doing, once again, is just stirring that right femur as wide as you can without pinching in both directions. If you want to follow my cueing, I'll provide. I'm bringing my knee to my chest. I'm opening my knee out like a dog in a fire hydrant. I'm then bringing my heel up to the ceiling as my knee goes behind me. And then I'm going to my start position again. Again, going backwards, I'm reaching my heel up to the ceiling. I'm opening my knee out, fire hydrant. I'm bringing my knee to my chest, and then I'm returning back. So the wall, the furniture is giving you feedback. It's telling you, hey, you're leaning into the wall too much, or you're leaning away from the wall. And this gives you a real honest assessment of how mobile you are in your hip sockets. A couple more deep breaths here. Give you an opportunity to do that action one more time. Good. Now, if it's frustrating, hip cars are. They are. It requires a level of awareness that we're not used to doing. Hip mobility is a bit of an issue for folks nowadays, you know. Okay, so we have about reached that time. Before we go down, I would like you briefly to do one more thing. If you have to go, I do understand, because some people are still working. I'm bringing my left shoulder up against the wall. If you don't have a wall, you would just stand with a block between your thighs. I have a block here. And that will help keep you a little more even. Okay, I've got my left shoulder on a wall. My right hand is the active hand. I'm gonna bring palm up. I'm gonna bring my arm forward in forward flexion as much as I can until my arm is right up next to my ear and it can't go any further. So it's palm up. Once I reach that wall in my mobility, I don't want anything else in my body to move. I'm keeping my right arm as straight as I can. I'm going to then turn my thumb down and bring the arm behind me. So see, I'm giving a thumbs down behind me, and I'm squeezing the arm behind me as much as possible. So this is an arm circle, but it's a very controlled arm circle. Keep that thumbs down, keep the arm behind you, keep the arm straight, and try not to couple into any other joints. Keep squeezing the arm behind you as much as you can until your arm ends up next to your ear. Woo. Then I'm going to turn my palm from this position, arm next to my ear, I'm going to turn my palm toward the back of the room. As I bring my arm forward, you're going to notice it's palm up. We're going to go to the other side. I'm going to word that a little bit differently. My right arm shoulder is right up against the wall, just keeping me in check a little bit. I'm externally rotated as my arm is forward in front of me. My arms are straight, my spine is straight, and I'm doing this movement slowly. I'm keeping my arm externally rotated as much as I can until I hit a wall. And that's usually, for most folks, when the arm is next to the ear. Then I'm going to internally rotate. That means bring my arm behind me and the thumb is going down. I'm trying not to shift through the shoulders. I'm trying to squeeze my arm behind me without pinching into the joints. Good. We're reversing the movement. We're staying internally rotated in the arm for this final action. Going as far back behind me as I can. And then once the arm is next to my ear, I'm going to reestablish my position. I'm going to work a really straight arm. I'm going to turn the palm up toward the ceiling, and I'm going to bring the arm forward and down. And that will feel like work. That's muscular work there. How we all doing here? Good? So we got myofascial release. We got some pretty conventional stretches. And then we just started to touch on our hip and shoulder cars a little bit, which, yes, are frustrating. But the more you do them, the more you feel like you have control over those ranges of motion. And that really translates to our work on the mat or just in life. So I'm going to bring you through just some guided breathing really quickly if you have the time. If you don't, thank you for being here. It was such a pleasure. So inviting everybody who's sticking around to find yourself on the floor on your backs as we were at the beginning of class. And so now we're starting again with that simple inventory taking. Now we're taking notice of what's happening in the inner spaces of the body and what's happening in the inner spaces of the mind. And just noticing if there's any difference between the beginning of class and now. If you are not breathing deeply or posterior laterally, I'm going to invite you to now bring in that aspect of the practice. And since you're on your back, and some of us do have dogs on our chest, that will help us especially feel the rib cage expand on the ground on our in-breath, especially with the added load of a puppy. On an exhale, you can allow your body's tissues and mass to surrender itself into the floor beneath you. Each in-breath is one closer step toward intrinsic expansion. Each out-breath is one step closer to deep relaxation. And so in one breath, we have this dichotomy of energies. We have this outward expanding action of the in-breath. We have the surrender and ease of the out-breath. Now, we've just been starting to touch on breath control a little bit in our classes, playing with posterior lateral breathing, playing with filling the lungs completely and emptying the lungs completely. Today, I just want you to focus on box breathing. So maybe assign a number of seconds to your breath based on how deeply you could breathe right now. Perhaps 3 seconds on the in-breath. 3 seconds on the out-breath. Good. And 3 seconds on that in-between space. That's the bardo, the space in between breaths. Inhale, 3. Hold, 3. Release, 3. And so while you've been focusing on the symmetry of the breath, have you been allowing the body to expand on the in-breath and release and surrender on the out-breath? So there's still a deep awareness to what we're doing here. There's still a sense of focus. and connection. And so as a last act, I would like you to take that attention you've been focusing on cultivating, that awareness, and I would like you to direct that awareness into the spaces between the toes. And then once all that awareness is gathered into that space between the toes, can you now move that awareness into the space under the shoulder blade of the left shoulder and breathe into that space? Allow yourself a couple of deep, steady breaths and then move that awareness into the space under the right shoulder blade and breathe into that space. We're going to move that attention from the space in the right shoulder to the tips of the left fingers now. And then you'll move that awareness from the tips of the left fingers into the tips of the right fingers. And from there, I'll have you move that awareness into your heart center. Breathing whatever sensations or emotions you're feeling into this space. And now when you inhale, imagine that cultivated awareness elevating upward into the space between your eyes. And then when you exhale, imagine that cultivated awareness moving back down toward your heart center. And allow yourself about 5 to 10 elevations and descensions of this awareness. Allow it to all collect back into your heart center. Roll to your favorite side and press yourself up to seated position. Again, just noticing where you are right now, literally and figuratively. And does the room around you look different than when you first started the practice? Does your own inner awareness feel different than when you first came in? And I certainly hope that your body feels a little bit different than when you came in today as well.